Hello, this is a video describing how to make a basic corporate finance model. Once we make the corporate finance model, which will be shown in the website edbodmer.com in the corporate finance model exercise. I think that's the I'm going to rename this and make this the very first model. After I make this model, we're going to then show you how to incorporate a resolution of the circular reference. So the description of the circular reference will be here in section 3, and we'll have to adjust that. So that's where you can find this thing when we're finished. Control N, make a new sheet. Start by making it very small. I think to make a corporate model, I like to go quickly. I'm not going to put any history or forecasts in here. History or explicit periods. I think we'll just make it very simple. Let's put some assumptions. The first thing we might start with is a historic balance sheet. And this is going to be ridiculously simple. Let's start with our net plant on our asset side and our debt. How about we'll have net plant and cash on our balance sheet and on our assets. Whoops. I switched it to French again. And let's put assets. So how about we'll have 20 of cash, 400 of plant, alternate equal to get the total assets. This is really bare bones. Liabilities and capital. Let's put debt of how about 200 and equity, and we better make this the difference. Okay, alt equal total liabilities and capital. And now let's put some other operating assumptions. And I might have to fix some of this, okay, and let's put some revenues. And how about we'll make revenues go from 100 and how does this work? Alt EIS, let's make it go up by 30 each year. Alt EIS, that's how you do that thing. Click on the last one, shift control right arrow, shift alt right arrow, number 1. Okay. And let's put some, well actually let's rename this EBITDA. Revenues, expenses, and then let's put some capital expenditures, and let's say that's 20. Alt EIS. Let's increase this by, how much did we do the last time? 25. Okay, and that's it. And then we'll put some tax and depreciation. Let's put a depreciation rate. And let's make that, how about 5%? And tax rate, how about we'll make that 30%? And how about we'll make now financing, and let's put an interest rate on our cash balance, and then an interest rate on the debt balance, and a dividend payout ratio. Oops, oh, come on. Okay, and how about we'll make this 2%, pretty high. We'll make this 7%, and we'll make the dividend payout ratio 60%. Okay, that's enough to get the whole thing started. Let's try something. I'm not sure macro will work with. I think I can do that. I think let's make a color. I hope this is probably already taken. Yes. Okay. And F5. Go to special. Make it constants text. Okay. Make it a blue color, and stop recording the macro. Okay. Shift Control S will ask to inputs. Okay, and now after we have the inputs finished, it looks like I hope this is work okay. Let's make our our operating section we already have. That's our EBITDA and our capex. I'm not going to compute the free cash flow and all that. I think the next thing I'm going to start working on is the debt and cash balance. And after we work on the debt, let's put debt balance, and let's put an opening balance, add debt, new debt issued less debt repaid, and a closing balance, and then let's put an interest rate and an interest expense. Now let's put a cash balance, and why don't we copy the same things, but this time we'll call it interest income. And you know what I should have really done is put a depreciation balance. Now, yeah, I'm skipping about 18 things, 18 in this one. I'm going to put less. And then we should have a depreciation rate. And a depreciation expense. And then, after we have that, we can put accumulated depreciation. Okay. And why don't we put net plant? Now, I'm not going to put in retirements. This is going to be a whole nother subject, how to get an accurate representation of depreciation. We don't have taxes, and I hope you don't mind if I make this simplification. And I think the best thing to do would be, let's pretend we have some gross plant of 600 and some accumulated depreciation of 200, and this is this minus that, So here's the basic thing about a corporate model. All of the starting balances of our gross plant, the closing balance always comes from the balance sheet. If we go to the debt balance, the closing balance comes from the balance sheet. And if I go down to the cash balance, the closing balance of the cash comes from the balance sheet. And of course, the opening balance comes from the closing balance. And we've got things set up. If you just understand that basic idea, then you can get half of the battle. CapEx comes from the working. We'll add the CapEx, subtract retirements that are not there, and we have our balance of our CapEx. We'll put in the depreciation rate and get our depreciation expense. Let's make our depreciation expense on the average of the opening balance and the closing balance, and it's very important that you understand what that really means. What that means, Shift Control 1, by the way, perhaps we can what that means is that you're assuming the capital expenditures occur in the middle of the year. Now, here's another, I should have done this one, and our accumulated depreciation is just going up. Again, not correct, but starting point for a very simple description. Now, unlike the depreciation balance, when we get down to the debt balance and the cash balance, the amount we repay and all of that, that depends on the cash flow. Now, before we do this, why don't we put our interest rate on the debt balance. Of course, I took the wrong interest rate. And then let's put the interest rate on the interest income. Okay, that's that. Now to make since we don't have taxes, I'm just going to make a cash flow statement. No, I won't. I'll make a profit and loss statement. And let's put EBITDA first, okay, and just get that from our some sort of operating analysis. And then once we take that, let's take less depreciation. Now this is where the error is, because there were no retirements in this little analysis, but we can put our depreciation expense, and then of course we put EBIT without the DA, because we took the DA away. It's the wonderful thing about EBITDA, which I shouldn't tell you my age, but when I went to university there was no such thing. And then we can put less the interest expense, add the interest income, and get our net profit. How about we'll just call this earnings. Now, of course, we don't have taxes. That's why I had a boss once who made me do this silly rule of lines. I was completely obsessed with this. What was his name? I forgot his name. Interest expense we put from here, and then interest income comes from just below. Shift Control R, no, just Control R, excuse me. And then let's put minus the expense plus the income. I use this positive number convention, not because I think it's necessarily the right way to do things, but I started using it, and I can't get out of the habit. Now in the cash flow statement, let's start with our EBITDA, take away the interest expense, take away the add the interest income, now of course we better put less the capital expenditures, and we get cash from operations, and then we take these away, and let's also take away the dividends, and we'll have some sort of net cash flow. Now here's what I like to do is make a little cash flow waterfall, and then if the cash flow is negative, we're going to say reduced cash balance when cash is negative. Now we don't have to say it like that, and then we can say reduced debt balance when cash is positive. And now we have just up here we have the less items, the reduction. We have the reduction items here, and then we can put cash flow after reductions. It's probably, that's a horrible word. And then we can put added cash balance when cash is positive, added debt balance when whoops, okay, when cash is negative. Now once and then we can have a net final cash flow, which better be 0. Okay, so we've just worked through a cash balance. In the next exercise, I think I'll put a minimum cash balance in here, and then the final thing is we just take our balance sheet that we created before, and we just copy down here, and we have to add one more item to this, and that's our equity balance, and we have our opening balance, add the earnings, which we had from the profit and loss, less the dividends, which we didn't have until the cash flow statement, get a closing balance. And as everything else, I should have, I'm going to make no I won't, I was going to split the screen, but let's not bother. The closing balance of the equity is from our balance sheet, opening balance is the closing balance, earnings come from our profit and loss statement, dividends are hopefully from our cash flow statement, opening balance plus the earnings minus the dividends is our final cash flow, and we're going to make sure that our balance sheet balances. Okay, so let's just work through this. EBITDA we already have. Capital expenditures we get from our working analysis or assumptions in our case. Okay, and then we have this. Now our interest expense, there it is, from the profit and loss. Interest income comes from the next one. Dividends, let's take our earnings, multiply that by the dividend payout ratio, and you know what, whoops, Shift Control right arrow. Why don't we get just a tiny bit fancy and make this the maximum of this number or 0. All that statement does is makes absolutely sure the dividends can never be negative. So then we have our cash flow minus the whoops. What's happening? I keep switching. We have our cash flow minus the interest plus the interest income minus the dividends. That's our net cash flow. It's positive and then it goes negative. I didn't do that on purpose, but that's kind of nice. And this is a big subtotal. Okay. And then now here's the key. When this cash flow is negative, we're going to use our cash balance. So the first thing we do is take a maximum and put a minus of this or 0. What that does is it just identifies only the balance when it's negative. But the most we could ever take away from the cash balance is the cash balance itself. So we can't reduce the balance by more than we have. All right, so now, oops. Let me, how about this? We'll just, for now, make the closing balance, the opening balance, plus any new cash we have, minus new debt. It shouldn't say, let's fix that. So it says, add new cash generated less cash used. Okay? So now in this particular case, look, we only could use the 20. So that's nice that we could at least demonstrate that. Now, if this cash is positive, like this, and we first do our little maximum test to see if it's positive, and then we'll make the same thing. We'll say, well, okay, take the opening balance plus any new debt issued minus the debt that's repaid. Okay, and we can't, if we have some, when the cash flow is positive, we're going to use that to repay the debt. Now, we can't repay more than the debt we have, so we put a minimum of this or the opening balance of the debt. Okay. All right, and then we have cash flow minus the what we're going to do is, if there's a negative, we take this number minus the debt plus, excuse me for that little pause. Here's if we are if we have some negative cash flow and we're taking that out of our cash balance for the cash flow statement, that's positive cash flow. If we are reducing our debt, that's a use of cash. So I should put on the side whether we're adding or not, so we'll not. Look at this. You would need to follow your own instructions. So we have no cash except this little tiny thing at the end. And then we put our cash balance if it's positive, so we'll put a max of this or 0. And then if it's negative, we put a max and put a minus of this or 0. And then we're finished, and then the final cash flow should be this minus this plus this. Okay, and it's all 0, and in fact we can put a little test. This better always be 0. Okay, and then we can put an AND on the test to make sure it always works. All right? That's a little bit of a cash flow statement, a waterfall, excuse me. Now, now we just have to link up the rest of the model. The new debt issued is the added debt down here. The debt repaid is the reduced debt here. So now we can do this. Now what I'm going to do now is cheating. I'm going to multiply this by the opening balance and not the average balance. And that's the whole idea of the second exercise, because we would have had a circular reference if we didn't do that. So we're going to show you how to resolve this circular reference. Now that if we say how much new cash is generated, that's the added cash here. And then we have the cash used when it's negative. Okay, and we'll copy the same thing over here. And so what happened is we used a little cash up here, and it appears we then had no cash left. Then we had some negative cash flow, which means we had to add to our debt balance. Okay? And here's the key then. If I go to our cash balance now, yes, good. Our cash balance, notice we have a balance. And let's look at our gross plant balance. That's here. Okay. Whoops. And then we have our accumulated depreciation, and that's this one. Our net plant is the difference. Oops. Excuse me. Our net plant is the difference, and our total assets, I can't sum them, the net plant. Okay, I hope. And our debt comes from our debt schedule. I hope you understanding this idea, which I think is so crucial, and that's that every single item should have a closing balance, and that's how we make the balance sheet balance, which is, one of the best feelings in the world, and it doesn't balance now, and oh crap, what did I do here? This was supposed to be the net plant plus the cash, so hopefully now it'll balance. We put our difference, okay, and then once we have a difference, we say, well, does this equal 0? That's our test. And then we can have an aggregate test. And that's the structure, that's the basic structure of a corporate model. This is a very, very simple example, but it actually, hits a lot of the main points. Of course, our balance sheet has to balance, but the key point is all of these balances come from various closing balances. We had the closing cash balance, and all the starting point is our balance sheet. I suppose I'll put our accumulated depreciation, and we have all those balances. Okay, and then we work through the cash flow statement. The hard part about this, which I kind of did wrong, was we first look at the reduced debt and cash. Then we look at the added debt and cash. You don't have to do this. There are about 100 ways to do this and everything else. And that's it. And now, in the next video, we're going to talk about the resolution of the circular references from the resolution of the circular references from using the average. balance of cash and interest.